Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has just been released without charge after spending almost 12 hours in police custody. This is the former prince seen leaving the police station. It is the first image of him since he was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
February 19th, 2026, a date that will now live in infamy alongside the darkest chapters of the British monarchy. At 8 a.m. on this grey Norfolk morning, unmarked vehicles rolled quietly onto the Sandringham estate. Plainclothes officers approached a modest farmhouse called Wood Farm. Inside, a 66-year-old man was preparing for his birthday. He was not expecting visitors. By 8:15 a.m., that man, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, son of Queen Elizabeth II, brother of the king, was in police custody, the first senior royal in modern British history to be arrested. This is not a scandal about poor judgment anymore. This is not about a disastrous television interview or a humiliating eviction from a royal residence. This is about handcuffs. This is about custody. This is about the full, terrifying machinery of British criminal justice descending on a man who was, until months ago, addressed as His Royal Highness. And for the monarchy, it is, in the words of one royal source, an enormous embarrassment. A crisis so profound that it threatens not just one man's freedom, but the very institution of the crown itself. Let's establish exactly what happened, because the details matter. On the morning of February 19th, Thames Valley Police executed an operation at Wood Farm Cottage on the Sandringham estate. Multiple unmarked vehicles arrived with plainclothes officers. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was detained on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He was taken into custody. Simultaneously, police launched searches at properties in Berkshire and Norfolk, including Royal Lodge, his former home in Windsor Great Park. The charge, misconduct in public office, is not a minor infraction. In the United Kingdom, this offense can carry a life sentence. It applies to public officials who willfully neglect to perform their duty or willfully misconduct themselves to such a degree that it amounts to an abuse of the public's trust. For a former prince, a former trade envoy, a man who represented the crown on the world stage, the implications are devastating. But what specifically is he accused of? The arrest follows the release of millions of pages of Jeffrey Epstein files by the U.S. Department of Justice on January 30th. Within those files, investigators discovered emails suggesting that Andrew may have shared confidential government documents with Epstein while serving as the UK's special trade envoy. One email, dated 2010, appears to show Andrew forwarding official reports about his visits to Southeast Asia, reports prepared by his special advisor, directly to the convicted sex offender. Let that sink in. A member of the royal family, entrusted with sensitive information while representing British commercial interests abroad, is alleged to have passed that information to a man with deep ties to foreign intelligence services, a man who cultivated secrets from the world's most powerful people. The allegation is not about sex, at least not directly. It's about national security. It's about whether Prince Andrew, in his desperation to please a man who funded his lifestyle, compromised his country. The Giuffre family, whose sister, Virginia, tragically took her own life last year, issued a statement that cut through the legal jargon with brutal clarity. At last, today, our broken hearts have been comforted by the news that no one is above the law, not even the royal family, they said. Andrew was never a prince. This is the heart of the matter. For centuries, the monarchy has existed in a space above the ordinary rules. Royals were not arrested. Royals were not handcuffed. Royals were managed, protected, quietly retired. But the Epstein files have done what no tabloid scandal could achieve. They have placed a royal in the back of a police vehicle, staring at the mesh screen of a custody suite. The royal family's response has been swift, coordinated, and ruthlessly strategic. King Charles III, informed of his brother's arrest after the fact, the palace was not given advance warning, issued a personal statement. It was signed Charles R., not issued through Buckingham Palace's usual channels, underscoring the gravity of the moment. I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office, the king said. What now follows is the full, fair, and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. The phrasing is precise. This is not a statement of brotherly solidarity. This is a statement of institutional separation. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, not my brother, not the Duke of York. The man in custody has been linguistically distanced from the crown. The king is not defending him. He is surrendering him to the process. Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, have fully aligned themselves with the king's position. A spokesperson confirmed they fully support Charles's statement and remain deeply concerned by the continuing revelations surrounding Epstein, with their thoughts remain focused on the victims. William, who sources say has long viewed his uncle as a liability and privately called for his banishment as early as 2019, is now watching his prophecy come true in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. The unity is deliberate. The monarchy is presenting a single, unbroken front. We are not him. We cooperate. We respect the rule of law. The victims matter. It is a survival strategy, executed with precision. For Andrew, this arrest represents the final, irreversible collapse of a defense he maintained for years. He denied everything. He settled a civil lawsuit without admitting liability. He retreated to Royal Lodge, then to Sandringham, believing that if he stayed quiet long enough, the storm would pass. But the storm never passed. It only gathered strength, fed by millions of pages of documents, by the relentless work of journalists and investigators, by the courage of victims who refused to be silenced. Royal historians are already reaching for superlatives. Sarah Gristwood told NBC News, "I can't think of anything like this in modern times." While royals in earlier centuries were imprisoned for political reasons, think of the Tower of London and the Tudors, the detention of a recently senior royal on suspicion of a criminal offense is virtually unheard of. The only remotely comparable case was Princess Anne's conviction under the Dangerous Dogs Act, for which she was fined but not arrested. This is different. This is a former prince in a police cell. So, let's answer the question posed by our title. What makes this an enormous embarrassment for the monarchy? First, there is the sheer, visceral image of it. Unmarked police at a royal residence. A prince led away. Searches of royal property. The crown, which projects an aura of untouchable dignity, has been touched by the cold hand of criminal procedure. The crown gates could not keep the law out. Second, there is the nature of the allegation. Misconduct in public office is not a personal failing. It is a betrayal of public trust. If proven, it means a member of the royal family used his position, his access to sensitive information, his role as a representative of the nation, in service of a relationship with a convicted sex offender and suspected intelligence asset. The allegation is not about sex, at least not directly. It's about national security. It's about whether Prince Andrew, in his desperation to please a man who funded his lifestyle, compromised his country. Third, there is the timing. This arrest comes after years of the monarchy trying to contain the damage. Andrew was stripped of titles, stripped of patronages, stripped of his home. Each step was presented as final, as decisive. And yet, here we are. The crisis is not contained. It is escalating. Every action the palace took to draw a line under the story has failed to anticipate the next revelation. Fourth, there is the Republican dimension. Anti-monarchy group Republic has already filed complaints and pushed for investigation. With the king's brother in custody, the argument that the institution is above accountability collapses. If a prince can be arrested, why do we need princes at all? The question will be asked with renewed force in the coming days and weeks. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor turned 66 years old today. It is not a birthday anyone would wish for him. He sits in police custody, his future uncertain, his reputation in ashes, his freedom hanging on the outcome of an investigation that shows no signs of slowing down. The charge he faces carries a potential life sentence. The evidence against him continues to accumulate, and the family that once protected him has, out of necessity, stepped aside and let the law take its course. This is the new reality for the British monarchy. No one is above the law, not even a prince, not even on his birthday. The enormous embarrassment of this moment will fade with time, as all news cycles do, but the precedent it sets that a prince can be arrested, detained, and investigated like any other citizen will echo through the institution for generations. The crown has been diminished today, and there is no ceremony that can restore it.